Facebook page.
Did I go on? I did. But Davies is first. First again. Who do we got? We have Brooke Davies with us, Harold Locke, Brian Fanning. He says hello from New Jersey. Missed you last night. Yeah, I think I'm alert enough to do this now. James the astrophotographer. Cameron Gillis is with us. Bergman Scooter. Mike Wiesner says hi from the grocery store parking lot in Tucson. Who else do we have? Well, we have the most loyal watching us right now, so that's cool.
looking to find and watch some black holes. And there are quite a few of them, so you're in for a treat. But before you get to all the fancy ones, let's first take a look at some of the simplest ones. After all, looking at the fancy ones first would be like trying to spot a Zordorkian Granulus before you even know basic Granulus anatomy, and that would just be silly. Anyway, your basic solitary black hole is, well, basic, but relatively speaking. It has a lot of mass, a bit of spin, a boundary inside of which everything, including light, can only fall inward. And beyond that, well, we actually have no idea. However, because solitary black holes are so simple, they're quite hard to spot. But if you have a keen eye, you might be able to catch a glimpse of it by looking at their surroundings. For example, black holes bend the light traveling past them, and you can see this effect, called lensing, around the edge of the black hole. There you are! Also, because black holes tend to mess with their environments, you can sometimes find one by using other clues, such as a bunch of stuff orbiting what appears to be nothing. Anyway, now that you know a bit more, grab your telescopes and enjoy.
That was short and sweet. Well, we might want to come on to the program here. Let's do this. Here we go. And let me change cameras. And there we are. Okay. So anyhow, Scott Roberts and Kent Marts here. And hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry that I was not around on Tuesday. I was a little bit out of sorts because of getting the Moderna vaccine, my second injection. So it kind of wiped me out. So that was the deal. But on any account, glad to see all of you guys. Some announcements. Global Star Party is happening this week, but it's going to happen this Friday on the 16th, starting at 8 p.m. I also wanted to give a big shout out to the Alliance of Historic Observatories. They launched their website this month. I think it actually might have launched today. I could be wrong about that. Let me share my screen here so you can see what their website looks like, and I can tell you just a little bit about this organization. The Alliance of Historic Observatories started with an idea that when we were at the Starlight Festival at Yerkes Observatory and was learning that the historic observatory was going to have basically the plug pulled on them. The University of Chicago could no longer fund their activities, and they announced that they would be shutting down the observatory, which they almost did. I had a conversation with Sam Hale, and it's a beautiful website, as you can see. I had this conversation with Sam Hale, who's the grandson of George Ellery Hale, who helped build that observatory and Mount Wilson and the Palomar Observatory. So, that guy built in succession 4 of the world's largest telescopes, a feat that will probably never be repeated. But we realized that we needed to come together to help preserve these observatories. And now you're seeing that Yerkes is coming back online with the Yerkes Future Foundation, which is great. And you can see the group so far that are members of the Alliance of Historic Observatories, which is Griffith Observatory, Lick Observatory, Lowell, Mount Wilson, of course, Palomar Observatory, and the Vatican, Yerkes, some other organizations, the Antique Telescope Society, Explore Scientific, and INSTAR, the Institute for Student Astronomical Research, was all part of that. And you can see. This is a photo of that original meeting. That's me right over here. This was all, I mean, directors of the observatories, planners, astronomers. It was really cool. That happened June 15th through the 16th of 2019. We were under the 100-inch dome, and man, I'll tell you, it was just totally amazing to be with all these people. That included Sam Hale, Tom Meneghini, who's the director of the observatory, Dr. Sandra Faber, who's over at Lick Observatory with Tony Mersch, Dr. Ed Krupp from Griffith, Jeffrey Hall from Lowell, Jonas Zimweed, I always have a tough time with this one, Zimwoodzinus, okay, and Dr. Andy Bowden, and G. Mueller. They were all from Palomar Observatory. Dr. Gabor was there from the Vatican. Ian McLennan and John Briggs. Ian McLennan was there kind of representing, I think, Yerkes Observatory. John Briggs from the Antique Telescope Society. Rachel Freed from Instar, and myself, taking minutes of that meeting. So it was really, really cool. It's wonderful to see this program launch, and this small group that you see of observatories right now is just really the start. Once things get more established, I think you're going to see many other historic observatories that should be preserved for the next century. So anyhow, we're here to learn more about the Universe Sampler program from the Astronomical League, and Kent Marts was going to cover the section about the sun.
I'm sitting here having cognitive dissonance right now.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure that we did lesson 11 last week, which was variable stars.
We can do it next week.
So I guess we'll go ahead and do lesson 12, and people can weigh in and tell us if we did lesson 11 on variable stars last week.
I don't think you did. I don't recall variable stars. So we'll jump ahead, and then we'll go backwards, and then jump ahead again. So
it doesn't really matter, does it? Okay.
No, it doesn't.
Let me get launched and things squared away here.
Joining us is Beatrice Hines. She says, greetings from Belgium. Chris Larson says, got my second one. Oh, we're talking about the Moderna vaccine yesterday. Tried to work today. Just got home and in bed. Yeah, I totally get that.
There we go. Okay, so lesson 12, which is, I'm pretty sure out of order, is the sun. So, we see the sun every day. The sun is what gives us the energy on Earth to have life here. It drives all of our weather and everything else. But come on, change.
Yeah, just that.
That's it. We're done.
Yeah.
That's the lesson. So we are talking about Universe Sampler.
Provides life, drives the weather. What more do you need to know?
Well, those are, frankly, the most important things to know about it, I think. So anyway, Universe Sampler class, you can pick up the book, and I checked the Bitly link, and there's been a number of books sold through that Bitly link. So we know that it is gaining some traction.
Very good.
And there have been some, not as many, but a few Observing Club programs sold. So
now, I already put up the link to buy the book, but let me put the bit.ly /3, what is it? 3LD capital VNYA, and that will take you to the Observing Club itself.
Right. Which is, basically you just got to observe stuff and keep records. And it explains what to do in that booklet for sure. So anyway, we're not going to review variable stars because I don't think we've done it. So lesson 12 is the sun, this chapter probably has the least technical stuff of all of these. Never look at the sun with your naked eye because you'll burn and you'll ruin your vision and imprint the sun. There's that famous picture after the eclipse of somebody who stared at the eclipse, and you can see the 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 image, the crescent sun burned onto their retina. So it's critical that if you don't know what you're doing, don't try it, because it's like skydiving. You don't necessarily want to pack your own chute to begin with. And if you do, proceed cautiously and be sure you're doing what you're doing. There are one thing, and I did a video of this before the eclipse, and Scott did. We had people who were thinking they could use a telescope or pair of binoculars to look at the sun.
Oh, yeah.
with solar safe glasses on. And so they thought they could then look through a telescope or binoculars, and it instantly burns through that film, and would have just boiled your eyeball, scarred your retina for probably life. The sun is like millions of stars in the Milky Way. Its light and heat are what gives us light. It's curious to want to observe it, but new observers need to learn the proper way. Some inexpensive telescopes come with solar filters that fit on an eyepiece of the telescope. Don't use one of those one of those. The heat from the sun can cause the filter to break, exposing your unprotected eyeball to the magnified sun. And, back when some of us were boys with magnifying glasses, we don't want our eyeball to be the ant. The safest way to observe the sun is through a pinhole camera. I actually have made one of these, and it's made out of a copy paper box with a sort of a face-shaped hole cut in the end of it, and a piece of white paper taped in one end. In the other end, over the gap where the space is between the cardboard, I simply stretched out a piece of aluminum foil, taped it down, poked a hole in it. Voila, a solar safe way to project an image of the sun directly on your eyes. And because you're not looking at the sun, you can't damage your eyes with it. This used to be something that was pretty common, number 14 welder's glass, but I suspect you could go by Harbor Freight or a welding supply store and buy some of a piece of welder's glass or the number 14 welder's goggles, and you could look at the sun that way. Don't get number 13 or 12. It's not going to work. You're going to let stuff, too much light get to your eyes. There are also, filters available, which we sell one of, that fit over the end of the telescope and is solar safe. And it filters the light before it goes into the telescope, so you can get a magnified view of the telescope, but literally there's only a small fraction of the light coming through. I also have an older style mirrored solar safe or solar filter that, if I remember correctly, it's 3 silver mirrors stacked on top of each other. And at least 2, and I think it's 3. And what you're looking at is the light not reflected by the silver backing. And it cuts out, a 99 point whatever the light. Then you start getting into other filters that let you start seeing the sun in different wavelengths of light. The most popular is probably the H alpha, which you can buy specialized scopes to utilize that are solar safe. But you can also get, calcium and all sorts of other solar safe narrow band imaging that you can watch the sun in different wavelengths of light and see different processes that are going on. If you are using solar safe filter, you have to inspect it each time you use it, because a pinhole can damage your vision. So, or even a scratch can let too much light in. So you need to hold it up, at a distance from your face and move over into the sun so you can see whether there's any, pinpricks of light coming through it or not. I'm planning on for when I give this to the Astronomical League, actually going out and poking a hole through one of our filters so you can take a picture of it to show what it looks like. The only time to look at the sun is through a total solar eclipse, and technically you're not looking at the sun, you're looking at the brand new moon and seeing the corona around it. If you've never seen a total solar eclipse. It is on a must-have thing if you're interested in astronomy. I had seen plenty of solar eclipses, but I had never seen a total eclipse until the one in 2017, and it is right up there as one of the coolest experiences of my life. Um, don't pass up a chance if you know in 2024 to go somewhere where it's going to be not cloudy, which means basically South Texas or Mexico, or unless you just get lucky along the path. There's also an annular eclipse come up in 2023, which you can't look at naked eye. I've never seen an annular eclipse either. I'm looking forward to that one. Um, and I guess we could talk about this, Scott. We've been toying with. We happened to Catherine Auld, who was on the show last week. Her ancestral ranch is in Texas near Uvalde.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the paths of the annular eclipse in 23, it comes down out of the northwest and comes southeast and crosses Texas and goes out in the Gulf of Mexico. And then the total solar eclipse comes up out of Mexico, crosses Texas, comes almost, we're I don't know, we're within an hour, 10-minute drive of totality, crossing the interstate between Russellville and Conway, Arkansas, going northeast. But those two solar paths cross. And right where those two solar paths cross happens to be in the bullseye of where Catherine Auld's ranch is. And we're talking about having a double sort of eclipse, crossroad of the eclipses star party or something like that on her ranch. And if everybody's listening to it right now, we think people would come to it. We think it'd be a hoot. We could have a star party on both sides of it. Because it's at a new moon and absolutely dark night, either couple of nights, either side of it. Might be a fun time. We've toyed with that and talked about the logistics. Probably more to come. I'm going to be down there, whether we're having an Explorer Alliance star party or not. I'm probably going to be down there on the ranch, and I figure Scott probably is going to be there or down in Mexico, one or the other. So I grabbed some pictures off of our Facebook page to show some of the things you can see. And I'm not going to go into details on this, but obviously this is a fairly accomplished astrophotographer, Andres Nielsen. Here's one by Gary Palmer that shows some prominences. And this is a Jason Gunzeal, another friend who is got a picture of an active sunspot group rotating off the face of the sun. Warning, review real quick.
Those are all H alpha.
Right. These are all H alpha.
H alpha solar filtered images. So there's, these. Of course, they're using the right equipment. They're experienced. So even if you've been doing a lot of amateur astronomy for a while, if you have never done solar observations before, you're going to want to get some expert instruction before you turn your scope to the sun. So
yeah, it can be very dangerous. You can boil your optics, you can cook your glass, you can blind yourself, you can probably nuke your camera pretty quickly as well. But as I say here, never look at the sun without proper protection. Never, 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 ever, never, never, don't do it. I like to say,
don't even get close. Don't even get close.
Don't get close. Yeah, they were. Let's see. Last week, Tyler Bowman and Heath were out. Heath Creekmore, customer service here. We're out setting up a 12-inch. I think it was 12 or a 10-inch Dobsonian out in the parking lot, and they had a solar filter, so they put it on it. It wasn't pointed at the sun, but they noticed that the solar filter started melting, and they were like, "What the heck is going on here?" And they were freaking out and came running to get me, And I said very quietly, "Did you have a shroud on the truss tube Dobsonian telescope?" And they looked at me sort of sheepishly and said, "No." And I said, "Well, you had it off centered but close, and it reflected back on, and it nuked that solar filter bad."
Yeah.
And you could see it when they grabbed it and started moving it. It just, even though they moved it quick, it just burned a groove right through it just as quick as it could. So, lesson learned. Tyler's an experienced, observer, but he made a slight mistake, and
he didn't think about that the sun could
shroud
come obliquely through the side of a truss tube. And
correct.
That's something similar to that happened during the 1991 total eclipse of the sun, the great eclipse that we had, where in Baja it was like a 7 minutes of totality. It was insane. But on Mauna Kea, it's the first time that a total eclipse had gone over a major observatory complex. I was there filming the eclipse with the NOVA film crew. And I've told the story before, but what happened is that the Keck Observatory had not yet been completely finished. They had just installed a few mirror segments. And they had opened up the dome and were showing VIPs, the observatory and stuff, and I guess they all rushed off to go do something and forgot that the dome was still open, okay? And so what happened was, of course, the sun comes racing across and bounces off the few mirror segments that they had, and then it started burning the inside of the dome. So, this was the most advanced, world's most expensive, ground-based observatory about to burn.
And they're trying to set the dome on fire. Well, they weren't trying to set the dome on fire, but they were setting the dome on fire.
They weren't trying to, but even the experts, the real experts, okay,
make mistakes.
So be very careful and do it right.
So moving on down the road, learn the proper way to safely observe the sun before trying it. Sun-safe solar film and mirrored glass, welder's glass, projecting an image. Projecting an image is a real cool way of doing it. Inspect your sun-safe filter or film every single time before you use it.
Yeah.
The things to see on the sun, which wasn't talked about in the universe sampler: sunspots and their filamentary penumbra, granulations, limb darkening, faculae, lots of other stuff to see as well. Prominences, coronal mass ejections, all sorts of stuff are there to see with the correct equipment. And with specialized filters, you can see lots of other awesome stuff. That's the end of the presentation.
Richard Grace does want to point out that don't forget about your finder scope. This is a mistake.
Absolutely. I'm going to put that on there.
Also that people do. And so they'll get their solar filter all aligned and everything, and then aim the telescope at the sun and notice that they smell their hair burning, or that, or really bad is that they accidentally, because of force of habit, look through their finder scope to align their scope. Okay? Really bad news. Just take the darn finder scope off, okay?
Right.
Or completely mask it so that you're confident with that. And when you put on filters that fit over the lens, tape them on. Okay?
Every time, absolutely. Duct tape them on.
The wind can blow it off. A kid can knock it off. You can knock it off. Okay, so tape it on. It can't hurt. All right.
I'm adding these to the PowerPoint right now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because you'll give that presentation again.
Surely. Certainly.
So, but other than that, go get some safe solar filters and go observing. So,
the way I do it is I will take off. How do you align with the sun is always a question. I actually take off the diagonal and then move the telescope and get a piece of white paper or a piece of cardboard and just move the telescope until I get a good image circle of the sun, 2 feet behind the telescope.
With no filter on, I guess, huh?
Yeah, no filter, just real quick. And as soon as I get it, I have somebody helping me generally, lock it down, and then slap a solar safe filter over it. And now you found it. The other way to do it is with the other method I've used is using with the lens cap on,
Yeah.
Just simply unlock the telescope and move it and line the shadow of it up on a piece of cardboard or white paper.
I look at the ground if
Yeah,
the
if you don't
sun's
have
high
anything.
enough, and I
Yeah.
make the shadow of the telescope tube
Yep.
as small as possible.
Right. On mine, there's actually two uh, screws. When I'm using the 127 in the showroom,
Hmm.
I'll use the two screws of the cradle as my lining up points. I will line those up until I get one perfect image of them, and done just like that. Can line it up very easily. So
Right.
yeah, I did not think about the finder scope because actually with my C11 one time, or my C8, I was getting set up and I pointed it close to the sun and was farting around, and people were talking to me and I wasn't paying attention. And somebody was standing there and they jumped because there was a projected image of the sun was on their leg and was getting hot, even though they were, it wasn't a pinpoint. And I turned around and I used a black film canister to just stick in the hole in the back side of the C8, and then just took the diagonal off, put it in there,
Yeah.
keep dust out. The sun had moved enough to where it was projecting an image out the back of the telescope, and it was not even that particularly close to being a pinprick, to be in prime focus.
Yeah.
But it was certainly hot enough to melt that film canister and turn it into black goo, and it was dripping out the back of the telescope.
Oh man.
And 2 feet, 3 feet from the end of the telescope, it was hitting the back of somebody's leg, and they felt it getting hotter and hotter and jumped. So it's easy, dangerous mistakes to make. You have to focus on what you're doing.
Just gotta, this is where it's nice to have that checklist. Did I do this? Did I do that? Did I do this?
And don't get distracted.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's easy. At night, if you get distracted, people come up and start talking to you. It's no big deal. But if you are messing with the sun, and the lesson I learned was don't talk to people. Take care of the business, get everything good and safe, then stop and talk to people. Because I got distracted, and it could have been far worse than it was, most assuredly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see, if you go on to Google and type in solar finder for telescope, you're going to see a bunch of different ones that are out there. Mostly the way that they work is they have like a disc that has a little hole in it, and then it's aiming some of that projected with no lenses, just the projected or the clear space of the sunlight hitting the another disc, and so and that makes it pretty easy to get a scope lined up. But anyhow, those are some of the tips and tricks and things like that. So, but
Harold
it's cool
Locke,
to look at the sun. It's our nearest star. So
Harold Locke says, "Ouch! So far, I failed to get the sun. Paranoia has me down each time, not wanting to hurt equipment." Harold, if you've got a solar safe filter, don't be scared of it, but most assuredly respect it. Have respect for what's going on.
Yeah, tape it on.
Yeah.
Tape it on, and then
proceed. And if you're worried about something, look, take a picture of your rig. If you don't have anybody else you can consult, take a picture of your rig, email it to me at exploralliance@explorescientific.com, and I will check off and say, yeah, that looks good, or no, you ought to do this, and give you a better feeling of safety. So yeah, Scott, why don't you put that down? I think they all know it, but Explore Alliance at explorescientific.com. And just to make sure, and anybody can do that. If you've got any questions about your rig, you can email us, email me, email
it doesn't
service.
matter if it's Explore Scientific stuff or not. We don't care.
Yeah, we don't care. We're lifting all boats with a rising tide.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, correct.
So the video that Kent was talking about before, this is a true story. during the 2017 eclipse, as it was approaching, we had an experienced amateur astronomer ask us if he could wear his eclipse glasses to observe the sun through a telescope. And it made me go out immediately and shoot this video. And so...
Are you playing the video you did?
I'll play the video.
Yeah.
It's been watched over 100,000 times.
Really?
Yeah. And it's probably our most watched video that we have. Yeah, it's astounding what happens if you try to do this.
And how fast it happens.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Galileo was the first person to invent to quote, invent the telescope. He was also the first person to blind himself with a telescope.
Yeah,
because
didn't he affect both eyes?
Both eyes, yeah. It was because he didn't understand.
I can't see anything anymore. Let's use this one.
I mean, it's like 40% in one eye and 60% in the other.
Oh my God!
Because he was looking at the stuff at night. He said, "Well, I wonder what the sun looks like," and ow, that hurt.
It didn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Well, yeah, but I can't see anything. Well, let me try the other eye.
That's the problem. It doesn't hurt.
I can't imagine it doesn't hurt because just looking at the sun with nothing sort of hurts.
Made you go, wow, So yeah.
Yeah. So play that video.
All right. Well, okay. So that's that. Check out that website, historicobservatories.org. And we'll be back at you tomorrow with the Open Go-To community, and then on Friday we have Microcosmos Voyagers, which is our microscope program, and then we have the 41st Global Star Party. So it's going to be a great week. Until then, we'll see you later. Take care.
Hi, everybody. Watch this video. Watch this video.
Right. Here you go. So it's a beautiful sunny day, and we have our refractor out, and I've got my eclipse glasses on, and I've got my safe solar filter. Of course, the eclipse is not here yet, but I wanted to take a few minutes just to show you some things about solar filter safety. The filters that we use is the Thousand Oaks material. It is rated to the highest ISO standards, and actually independently tested by us as well. So just to make sure that those standards are met. So if you're going to use a telescope to look at the partial phases, and let me underline partial phases to you. You use eclipse glasses to observe the sun in partial phases when it's in total. If you're going to be on the path of totality, you can take the glasses off, and only during that time, which is going to be roughly 2 minutes this time on August 21st, only during that time can you directly look up at where the sun is, because it's completely blocked out. You'll see the corona, you'll see lots of really cool effects they'll leave you speechless. But during all the partial phases, you have to have safe solar filtration. So how do you do it properly? Let me show you. First off, let's show you what you shouldn't do. What you shouldn't do is put on eclipse glasses and look through the telescope that's unfiltered. And I'll show you exactly why here. We're going to point the telescope directly at the sun. And right now, we have sunlight coming right through the eyepiece. Turn that up a little bit. If you use solar glasses and look right at the filter material, you see it's already burning. It's burning a hole right through the solar filter material. That is how powerful a telescope is. So this is definitely something you don't want to do. You can now see that there is a hole through there, and that could be your eye. So this is what can happen if you think that you can use eclipse glasses to look through unfiltered telescopes or binoculars. If you do that, the sun's energy is going to burn right through the filter and burn right into your eye. So if you're going to use a telescope or a pair of binoculars to watch the partial phases of a total eclipse, or just to observe the sun to look for sunspots or something like that, make sure that you are using an over-the-lens solar filter that has you can see how snugly it's fitting here. This is not about to come off, but you know, if you have a loose fitting filter, use tape. Do anything that you can to make sure that the filter's not going to come off. And then the other thing is too is that finder scopes, optical finder scopes are like little telescopes, and they need to be filtered as well. In this case, I just have a red dot finder. There is no magnifying power to it, so I'm not going to use it to sight the sun in. The way I'm going to sight in the sun is literally as I'm going to look down at the shadow and align the scope up so I'm getting the smallest shadow possible of the telescope as it's hitting the ground. And now I can safely look at the sun in comfort and look at sunspots, and if we have partial phases going on in the eclipse, I'll see them all.
Hi, I'm Nikki Cox, a spacecraft operations engineer. I've been lucky enough to work for U.S. Space Command, in the commercial space industry as well, and now I'm at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory working on the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover. Don't forget to visit NEAF, the virtual experience, April 10th, 2021. It's the world's largest space and astronomy expo. Go to neafexpo.com. I hope you have a great time.
Well, of course, we already had NEAF, the virtual experience, but you can watch it again on YouTube, and they have some fantastic lecturers. So I would recommend going and checking it out. Just do a quick search on YouTube for NEAF Expo, and you can see it if you didn't already see it when it aired. Until that time, you guys take care, and we'll talk to you later.